Welcome to Comic Talkers. My name is Brandon.
I'm William.
I'm Ciara.
And today we're going to be talking about our top 5 DC live action films. The rules are simple. Any live action DC film goes. These are our personal picks. Before we get to our number one, we'll actually give us out some honorable mentions before we get into our number one picks. So without further ado, Ciara, I'm going to go ahead and start with you. What's your number 5?
My number 5 is Batman and Robin, which was released in 1997. It had George Clooney as Batman, Chris O'Donnell as Robin, Lisa Silverstone as Batgirl, and Arnold Schwarzenegger as Mr. Freeze. And I chose this one because this was my first introduction to Batman, and I found the movie funny. It holds very dear to my heart.
I'm sorry that was your first introduction to Batman.
I'm sorry, yes, but
what was it? So why this one though over some of the other Batman films with, from the 90s? Like you had, what was it? Batman Returns and Batman Forever too. Why over this one over that one? Oh, those.
Because this was the first one that I saw, and I actually had the VHS tape of it.
Okay. Can you tell us like one of your favorite characters in the movie?
My favorite character actually was Robin. It was Chris O'Donnell.
Okay, that's good. We're okay there on that one. Chris O'Donnell actually wasn't too bad as Robin. I didn't mind him.
Mm-mm.
Do I think he was like a Tobey Maguire in Spider-Man? He was too old for the role. Yeah, kind of. But he still fits it. I didn't mind him. Okay. All right, Mr. Willie. What's your number 5?
All right, my number 5 was Green Lantern. It was made in 2011, and the cast was Ryan Reynolds as Hal Jordan / Green Lantern, Blake Lively as Carol Ferris, Mark Strong as Sinestro, and Peter Sarsgaard as Hector Hammond.
So why choose this one over some of the good or better ones too?
Well, I chose that one's mainly just because of Ryan Reynolds. I think he's a fantastic actor. I think he's hilarious. And if I had to pick another big reason, then it would have to be Mark Strong as Sinestro, because
exactly
he was an amazing portrayal, and he really made like a big effort into putting all into interpreting Sinestro.
Right. I'll give you that. I think Mark Strong had the strongest role in that movie, even over Ryan Reynolds. He just played Sinestro to the T. I don't think you could have asked for anybody else better. It's sad he's in Shazam and plays a role that just, to me, didn't fit him. They should bring him back as Sinestro.
Yeah.
Give him a fear ring and go, I've been Sinestro all along, instead of, Okay. All right. So I'll go ahead and I'll give off my number 5. I'm going to get to that. My pick was actually Batman 1989. Again, movie was released in 1989. Features the cast of Michael Keaton as Batman or Bruce Wayne, Jack Nicholson as the Joker, and you also have a couple like Billy D. Williams. A lot of people don't realize Billy D. Williams is in that movie as Harvey Dent. There's a lot of characters that I love about this movie, in this movie. And I also like this movie because I feel that it was an underdog going into the theaters. Not a lot of people thought Michael Keaton would do the job. A lot of people just didn't feel like he was suited for Batman, and look what he showed. He could be a good Batman. Jack Nicholson, perfect Joker too. I will put him as in my top tier list for Jokers. I just feel like he just played the maniacal part of Joker to the point where it just worked for the movie. Of course, he's a little childish for all the other Jokers we've had, but he still plays the role. I didn't mind him. And I think out of all the other ones, I just feel like this is one of the best Batman movies out there, especially out of all the 80s, 90s Batman movies that came out. So my number 5 is actually Batman.
Nice.
So let's go ahead, Ciara. What is your number 4?
My number 4 is Birds of Prey.
Okay.
Quinn.
So tell us a little bit about Birds of Prey.
That movie came out in 2020. The cast has Margot as Harley Quinn, Mary Winstead as the Huntress, and Ewan as Black Mask.
Okay.
Okay, so I chose this movie because, in my personal opinion, I think it was a lot better than the first one. This shows Harley Quinn by herself without the Joker, and she's trying to find herself in her new life that she has to live now without him. And she picks up other people along the way.
So I got a question. You said the first one. What one was the first one?
Suicide Squad.
Okay. That's why I was like, there was no Birds of Prey number 1. Like, this isn't the second movie. It's just a continuation. But okay. So what was it? So of course Harley's probably going to be one of your favorites in this. But is there another character that you felt like, I like this one over anybody else, or you kind of just stick with Harley in this one?
Yeah, Harley and the kid that she's taking care of.
Yeah, it's Cassandra Cain, if I'm not mistaken. I haven't watched the movie a lot, so I've only watched it I think once. But yeah, okay. All right, now Mr. Willie, what's your number 4?
My number 4 that I chose was Batman Forever, released in 1995. And you could not get a more all-star cast than this movie. I mean, at the time it came out, it had Val Kilmer as Bruce Wayne, Batman, Tommy Lee Jones as Two-Face, Jim Carrey as the Riddler, Nicole Kidman as Dr. Chase, and Chris O'Donnell as Dick Grayson for Robin. I mean, those are really big names when that movie came out.
Right. So why choose that one over, again, a lot of the other Batman movies that came out during that time? Right?
Primarily because of Jim Carrey. I mean, he's an amazing actor, and it shows his talents definitely when it came to this movie as the Riddler. He was just phenomenal. He was funny. He was insane. But then aside from that, just not only with how well he portrayed the character, how well he was able to bounce off of Val Kilmer's Batman and their psychological warfare. And it's the kind of stuff that you would see in the old Batman cartoons anytime he came up against the Riddler.
Right.
There was always that war between their psychological differences.
See, and what was it? Like, I like Batman Forever. I think it is a good movie. I think the only downfall for me was Tommy Lee Jones. So for him, he's such a serious actor to me, and he was perfect cast for Two-Face, because Two-Face is a serious character. And then they made him comical. And it's just like, you can't do that. Two-Face to me is not comical. He's a very serious character.
That's one of the things that could have made the movie a little bit better, is that they had him as the counter for Jim Carrey's Riddler.
Right. Not both of them.
The silly, crazy person, then you'd have the serious, down-to-business person.
Exactly. I agree there. I think if they did that, it probably would have been made my top 5 list. But with just that alone was just enough for me to go, no, I'm good. Like, I don't
work for me.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So number 4 for you was Batman Forever.
Yep.
So I'll go ahead and give off my number 4. My number 4 is actually Batman Begins. Released in 2005, which started the Dark Knight trilogy out of them. You have Christian Bale as Bruce Wayne, aka Batman. You got Michael Caine as Alfred, Morgan Freeman as Lucius Fox, Liam Neeson as, what was his name? Ducard. I can't remember his name all the time. I'm sorry, I had to look at my notes there for a minute, everybody. I'm not perfect. I don't know everybody's names like that. And Killian Murphy as Scarecrow, Jonathan Crane. I think this was a cast that was a little not diverse, but it was kind of an all-star cast as well. Like you had, but they were all from every, like you have Liam Neeson, who was more of the action and the, and you have Christian Bale, who was known for horror movies along with, action as well. And Michael Caine, and you also had Morgan Freeman, who are veterans in the business. This movie just clicked. I just love it. It was a good introduction to Batman, a story that we've never, like, it wasn't just, oh, the parents were shot in the alley. It actually gave us a story behind what actually happened after that. It wasn't just, oh, they just shot in the alley, done. Like, no, they gave us, where did he go? What did he do? Things like that. That's why I love this movie. I think it was just a different take on Batman that people weren't expecting. And it finally just made sense. It really did.
Yeah. If I could say that I had any grievances with that movies, it would be two things. The first would be choosing Scarecrow as the first person that they put Batman up against. Because he wasn't really the most well-known when it came to Batman's villains. And the other thing was that they killed off Ra's al Ghul so quickly when he plays such a big part in Batman's story.
Like, I look at the Scarecrow more, the reason why they did is because maybe they just didn't do a movie with him in it. So maybe we'll start small and grow big. It's kind of what I was thinking, maybe why they did, because then the next movie led to Joker and then led to Bane and Talia al Ghul. And I think that's why they killed off, Deckard or Ra's al Ghul, that we come to find out later on. Because I feel like Talia was kind of like, even though they could have did a lot better with her, was like what they were setting up. Like, you're not done with the Al Ghuls yet. Like, you're still dealing with one more. And it comes later on that you find out Miranda, one of his love interests, is Talia al Ghul. And, I think the only thing I hated about this movie was Katie Holmes. I just couldn't get behind her. I like Maggie Gyllenhaal more than I liked, Katie Holmes. I just did. I think Maggie Gyllenhaal just connected more with them while Katie couldn't. So I don't know. I think that's the only thing that made me mad at the movie. I think Christian Bale's and Michael Caine's relationship is awesome. I think they could have asked two better actors to play with each other. And the cast, just mixes well. It just does. Yeah, I enjoyed this movie. It's one of my first Batman movies I watched in theaters, and I enjoyed it. I thought it was probably one of the best Batman movies I've ever watched. So my number 4 is Batman Begins. All right, Ciara. Let's hear your number 3.
My number 3 is a movie that came out in 2004, known as Catwoman, with Halle Berry as Catwoman.
Yeah, mine was Catwoman as well for number
3.
Okay.
This podcast has come to an end. We're going to sit here.
Bye. Roll the credits.
Yeah.
Bye.
We hope that we had another podcast here soon. Okay, so I'm going to just ask you guys, why Catwoman? Like, out of all movies, Catwoman's like, God. Why? Like, why Catwoman?
Because it was good. It was the only Catwoman movie, and personally, I think it was good.
You got Catwoman is like one of the most iconic figures, like, of female. She's one of the most iconic female characters, arguably compared to like
Poison Ivy or
Quinn or Batgirl. And they needed to make a movie about Catwoman, and this one honestly was very well made in my opinion.
I'm going to be honest. I think they did better with Michelle Pfeiffer in a matter of maybe 40 minutes of screen time or more than they did with Halle Berry in a whole stinking movie. Like, the There
you
was
think that, but if you actually go back and rewatch that, she's not very good as Catwoman.
See, I still disagree. Like that one, I think that's like our disagreement there, because out of all the Catwomans, by far Michelle Pfeiffer to me is the best. Period. Like that's just my opinion. Like, and all of us have our own different opinions.
Yeah.
Anne Hathaway will never make. She wasn't a good enough. She was a good Selena Kyle, but not a good Catwoman. That's how I viewed her. And Michelle Pfeiffer was pretty much, to me, was the total package. You couldn't have asked anybody better during that time frame to play her. I just, there's no way.
She was overkill. She took the cat and went overboard with Catwoman.
I agree with you there. That's the only thing I don't like about that. It's like, she's just a cat burglar. That's all she is. She's not like part cat. And I agree with you there. But I just think for what Tim Burton was going for, I think it worked. It just did. Like they make even Penguin look like a penguin, for crying out loud. Like it just works. It for his story, that just every opinion is going to be different. But that's what I said. So I think what turned me off there, and it still does, is the CGI. The CGI.
I think it was good for 2004. I really do. For what they were working with, I think it was pretty good. Could have been better? Yes. But for the time, and
I was going to say, can I play devil's advocate there for a minute? You have movies like Lord of the Rings, who did amazing. Sorry, I swear to God, I'm gonna. I slur my words a lot. Sorry, I'm not trying to do it on purpose, but who did amazing CGI on their work, amazing, advanced for their time, and even Daredevil to me did a lot better job than Catwoman did. And Daredevil was a year before. All three Lord of the Rings were, I think the last one came out a year before Catwoman did. So to me, it was just like, I think it was just Warner Brothers kind of being lazy in my eyes. That movie just did not hit with me. It didn't. But of course, it's not me slandering you guys. That's your guys' picks, and what was it? But I kind of want to hear more about you guys. That was the only thing I'm like, shit, that was my turnoff with the movie, was the CGI automatically. Was just like, no. Like, so like what made you guys kind of go like, yeah, I want to use this one?
Halle Berry's hot. No, honestly, I think that the reason I put that movie in my list was because it was a kind of a breakthrough way to develop, like show some development for that character, because everybody who read the comic books knows who Catwoman is. They have read comics and back to back. They know like all of her backstory and all that stuff and how she connects with Batman and everything. And I thought if they were to continue with this would have been a pretty good lead up to introducing her to more of the DC universe, because they actually not only introduced how she came about, but other aspects from the comics that kind of played into her development. What are you doing with your eyes?
For me?
Yeah.
I wasn't trying to do anything.
I don't know about you, but in my camera, it looked like one eye was going while the other one was going the opposite way. Anyway, that's probably just the camera. But yeah, I thought it was a good way to kind of introduce people to Catwoman and some of her allies, some of her enemies that most people don't really know about.
Okay. What about you, Ciara? What was some of the reasons you chose this one?
Well, I chose it because it's the first Catwoman movie of just Catwoman. It was just mostly on her, which I think Catwoman deserved more than just being part of Batman or something, just her.
Okay. All right.
And her uniform looks better, in my opinion.
All right. No, I'm not. Like I said, this is your guys' pick. It just was shocking because I was just like, what?
And actually, another thing, like you just said, it was a movie where it was just Catwoman, who at times is viewed as being just a side character for Batman. And if you think about it, this was kind of one of the first movies where that was done, where they would, like, they're doing a lot more now where they're getting side characters or less popular characters that are only known because of the main characters like Superman or Batman and Wonder Woman. But that was the first one where it took an kind of a side character who had a lot of development and actually made her the main character.
Mm-hmm.
All right. No, you guys give good cases for it. That's why I was just like, to me, it never just resonated with me. I kind of just pushed it to the side. I was like, I'm good. I don't need to watch it anymore. But, okay. So my number 3 is the other main lady who starred in her own movie. Came out in 2017. She was the main lead. It was Wonder Woman. I know a lot of people are going to sit here and go, oh, there's more, she should be near the top. And I'm like, for me, there's a couple more movies that oversee her. So just give you a little background thing. Of course, was released 2017. Cast was Gal Gadot as Diana or Wonder Woman. Yeah, Chris Pine as Steve Trevor. Yeah, Connie Nelson as Hippolyta. You had Robin Wright as Antiope. I can never pronounce her name right. Sorry. Even when I read the comics, it's hard for me to pronounce him. And David Thwaites as Sir Patrick / Ares. I actually enjoyed this movie. And at first, I was kind of skeptical. It was off the toes of Batman versus Superman. And I was scared for it. I was just like, oh no, this is going to be terrible. And I think where I fell in love with it is when she actually goes into No Man's Land. I think that was, like, I liked the beginning of the movie. I thought it was good, but I still was feeling like it was lacking something. When it came to No Man's Land and she gets out there and pretty much defends herself against a whole army of bullets coming at her, what a phenomenal scene. That scene just took me away. And I just, right there from that point on, I was pretty much hooked. I could not get my eyes off the screen. I was pretty much hooked from the beginning, or from that point on. And I know that's about halfway, but it just, sometimes it can be considered slow when it first starts because it's still trying to build the story, but it finally hits that point and it just hits off really well. I know a lot of people didn't like Ares in the movie. For what he was given, I didn't mind him. Yeah, I think they could have found somebody better than, what was it? Than Thwaites, but at the same time, I feel like he was given what he was given the script. I think he did the best that he could. Other than that, I really couldn't sit here and knock that movie. I think the movie was really good from beginning to end. After I rewatched it actually a few days ago for this list, it just still connects with me. It really does. And it's still a good movie. So, yeah. My number 3 is Wonder Woman.
All right.
All right, Miss Ciara. Let's go to your number 2.
My number 2 is a movie that came out in 2005, and it has Keanu Reeves in it.
Oh, I was going to guess. I'd be like, I guess. And then when you say Keanu Reeves, I was like, no.
It has Keanu Reeves, Rachel Winston in it, and that movie is Constantine.
Constantine, okay.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me a little bit why you chose Constantine. I'm kind of curious. It's a good movie, but I'm kind of curious why you chose it.
I like it. 1, it has a really good cast. And 2, I didn't know it was a DC movie. So.
Okay. But like, what?
And I think a lot of people don't know that. I could be wrong. Maybe they're just smarter than me. But me personally, I like the concept of this movie, of what it has to deal with. Because I think a lot of us, if we could, we would want to take out the bad in the world.
Right. Like, I mind you, I like the movie. It to me, for me, it wasn't top 10 or top 5 worthy, but it was still a good movie. I still enjoy watching it whenever it's on screen. And what was it? But like, what attracted? Like, was it just the story that attracted you, or what?
The story, and the cast.
Keanu Reeves.
Yeah, Keanu Reeves.
Keanu Reeves.
And Rachel.
Why?
And what you said, that you didn't know that it was a DC, and you figured most people don't know that it's a DC. That's the thing. Like, there's quite a bit of people who do read the comics, and they have seen a lot of Constantine in the comics, but a good majority of them didn't even know that was a comic book movie either, just because of the fact that Keanu Reeves was never known for having anything to do with comic books. It didn't really give off any indication that it was a comic book. It was called Constantine, and had a picture of him with angel wings on the cover. So when people see that, they don't immediately think, oh, it's going to have to do with magic or anything like that. A lot of people were getting this implication that it was just going to have to do with just demons and angels. There wasn't really a lot of build-up to indication of that it was going to be about Constantine character from DC Comics.
Right. Like, I didn't watch Constantine until I got into high school. And at first I didn't know it was a comic book either. I'm not going to lie. But when I got older, of course, when I was starting to read more of the darker comics, and I realized Constantine was, John Constantine was the same dude from the movie. But I agree with you guys. I get that sense of, like, people didn't really, like, to me, I didn't know that at first, but there might be some people that go, yeah, that was a comic book. We all know that, but I agree with you, Willie. Like, people wouldn't really resonate with that because it's just angels and demons, when Constantine is so much more than just angels and demons. He's a magic user, things like that. But it was still a great movie, and I'm happy they're doing a second one finally. So that I know Ciara's looking forward to that one. All right, Will, what's your number 2?
All right, my number 2 was Suicide Squad.
Oh God.
2016. I mean, at this point, I don't even need to name the cast. Everybody knows who it is. Will Smith, Margot Robbie, freaking the best villains ever that they could have gotten.
And then Enchantress.
Yeah, and then Enchantress.
God.
Yeah, if I was actually going to point out any grievances at all that I have with this movie, it was just the addition of the Joker. But even then, the rest of the movie was phenomenal to me.
See, I'll agree with you there, but I think my grievance more with the Joker part is that they marketed to us that it was going to be Joker. It was going to be Joker as the main villain. No one knew it was going to be Enchantress. And then when the movie came out, Joker's scenes were pretty much cut. And then was introduced Enchantress as the villain. And it didn't work with me, because it was like, again, it was like another incident like with Batman versus Superman, when they showed the trailers and they showed Doomsday. Everybody knows what's going to happen at that point.
Yeah.
And
I can extend an olive branch if they did have more scenes with the Joker and had him actually develop more and made him do more instead of only giving him the few scenes that they did. There's a possibility that he could have been better, but just with what they gave us, he was so bland. And the only reason that he's memorable was just because of the fact that he wasn't Joker.
Right. I'll agree with you there.
Like Joker to me.
Right. Like, to me, he just gave off the creepy vibe. Don't get me wrong. And I think you have to have the creepy vibe to be a Joker. But he didn't give off the sense of the creepiness along with, the maniacal part of it. Like, he didn't mix that well. It was just more creepy. And I didn't care for that. Ciara, what's your view of the movie? I know you also didn't care for this one, but I'm kind of curious to hear what you say.
I don't want to say I didn't care for it because I did like it because it did introduce us to Suicide Squad. But my only complaint is I didn't like the Joker. I did not. He wasn't my favorite. Heath Ledger will always be my favorite Joker because he actually tried. He gave off the Joker.
Right.
This Joker gave off a gangster kind of feel to it, and I didn't really like it that well.
Like, I think my only problem with the movie, period, like, of course, you know, like, I agree with you, Willie, the Joker was too bland. I'll agree with you there. And I feel it was not so much Jared Leto's fault. I feel it was Warner Brothers' fault because they pretty much cut a lot of scenes with him and pretty much made Enchantress the villain. And I didn't like that because Enchantress to me was just like I didn't care for her. She just, it didn't fit well with the story. I just didn't care for it. And
I realized that I put this as my number 2 of my top 5, and I've only pointed out the things that I didn't like about it.
So let's hear why you liked it. What's some of the reasons?
Well, okay, so the reason that I like it was mainly, like, obviously it's because of the Suicide Squad itself. Will Smith as Deadshot, I don't care what people say. Yes, he was playing Will Smith as Will Smith, but he's a darn good actor. He's phenomenal. And he always has that spunky character that knows what he's doing and will show you that he knows what he's doing. He will, like, he just emanates that energy every time he's on camera. And you had what's her name? Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn. She's pretty much the definition of Harley Quinn now. It's hard seeing anybody else play her at this point because she's made that character what it is. And not saying that I don't like the original from the cartoons. I thought, like, I'm always going to see, when it comes to the animated Batman, that the Jester as Harley Quinn.
Right.
But now how they've developed her with her, it kind of just fits now.
Right.
But then along with that, they introduced you to other villains that a lot of people don't know of nowadays, like Captain Croc or Captain Boomerang, Croc, Diablo. And on Diablo, I mean,
yeah, he was a phenomenal.
Not much to say. He was the best thing to ever be made in that movie. Right. And it's sad that they kind of had to kill him off right there, but he was the best character in the entire film, in my opinion.
I agree. I actually did like Diablo. I didn't know much about him, and he came on screen, and he tugs on your heartstrings. Like, you feel bad for him. And how he doesn't even want to use his powers anymore. That was the thing that I think hit me. It's like, he's hurt people. I don't want to go back out and do it again. And then him stepping up the way he did, it just really showed, like, helping, he really is a good person in heart, but it's made bad decisions.
And fun fact, did you know that the ending scene of Diablo, when he transforms into that giant Aztec skeleton, that's actually never been seen in any of his comic books. That was a new development of his character that came from that movie.
Right. And I think and that part I didn't mind. Got rid of the other sorcerer or whatever that dude was, like the brother of Enchantress. I didn't like that guy either. That dude just like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go knock people down. I was like, dude, we don't need you in the screen. Like, don't waste our time, kind of thing. And I think that was like, in his sacrifice was just awesome the way he did it.
Yeah.
Let's see if you know this one. There's another fun fact. Clint Eastwood's son is in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
He's the soldier that goes underneath. He's one of the soldier, one of Colonel Flack's right hand men. I was one of the guys that works with him a lot, and I didn't realize that till after the movie that was actually him, and I loved it. I loved every minute of that because I was just like, oh, now he's getting, he's gonna follow in his dad's footsteps and in acting and doing all that. And he's already been going to other big franchises, so it's awesome. All right, so my number 2 is. It is a controversial movie in some ways. I've heard a lot of people not like this movie. I've heard a lot of people like this one. I like it. It's a movie that was released in 2005. It's V for Vendetta. Starring Hugo Weaving as V. You have Natalie Portman as Evie. This movie just hit with me. Now, I'm not going to lie. I was one of those people that when I first watched it, it made zero sense to me. I literally was just like, at first, I thought this was complete garbage. I seriously did. It didn't make any sense to me. I think I got like a third of the way in the movie and I pretty much turned it off. It just did not hit with me very well. And, I had a friend of mine tell me, you need to watch it again. So I watched it again and I enjoyed it. It finally made sense to me, like, okay, now this is what's happening. And I think it's not your typical, again, this is a movie that a lot of people don't realize is a DC movie. It is, like when I first watched the movie and it comes up with the DC scrolls, I'm like, oh, really? This is a DC movie? Oh, I didn't know that. But this isn't your typical hero movie. This is an anti-hero that believes in his ways and he's against the government. So he's viewed as a terrorist when he's only out for freedom. And I think it's an interesting view of how we all kind of look at government sometimes, that they interfere too much. Now, I'm not saying that, in a bad way or anything like that, but I'm talking about, the fact that it just brings it together. And I think I think this is one of the few instances that I like the movie. I know this is going to be controversial. I like the movie more than I like the comic. The comic, I just feel like there's a lot of things that wouldn't resonate now. That it just wouldn't. It wouldn't, no one would be able to cling on to those issues like the movie. The movie brings out more things that are more relatable to me instead of the book, it just, I'm not going to go in full detail about everything because then I'd be spoiling it for people who haven't watched the movie. But this to me is one of my favorite movies, probably in my top 5 movies of all time. This would rank up there. And I enjoy this movie. It is a great movie to watch. And what was it? Yeah. So V for Vendetta is my number 2.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those that, like you said, people don't realize is a DC movie, because I remember I first watched that movie like a long time ago, probably like when it first came out, and then I never watched it again until just recently. I sat down and watched it again, and I saw the DC logo pop up, and I was like, oh, now I can put these on my list.
Yeah, I didn't either. And watching it was like, this is really a DC movie? Like, I didn't think that way. And mind you, I believe it was released before Batman Begins, if I'm not mistaken. So, 2005 was really, for me, not the best year for super, but to me, it was for DC, because you had that, plus you also had Batman Begins.
Yep.
And I think it really started taking off from there. So, yeah. So, all right. So before we get to our number 1s, I want to talk about our honorable mentions. So, Ciara, I want to see, what's your honorable mentions?
My honorable mention is a movie that came out in 2017, and that is Wonder Woman.
Okay. So why? So I have to ask you, what made you not put it on your top 5?
Personally, it was a good movie, but it wasn't my favorite. It really wasn't.
Can you elaborate on that a little bit more?
I do like Wonder Woman, but I don't really know too much about her. So okay, watch the movie. But the storyline was good. It was her backstory and all of that. But I don't know. For me, I couldn't really get into it.
Okay.
There was just too much going on, too much, and it made me cry. That just no.
Okay. All right, Willie, what's your honorable mentions?
All right, well, I got 2 honorable mentions. One is Justice League that came out 2017, and the other one is Shazam that came out 2019.
Okay, so what made you not put those on your list?
Well, they're very nice movies. They're very fun movies. Justice League, it's the first attempt for DC to try to do the same thing that what they were trying to do with Marvel and get their superhero team together and show where they've come and show us the superheroes that we're supposed to all know and love. The biggest issue is they threw out 3 brand new superheroes at us that nobody knew about, and 2 of which haven't even gotten their own movies yet. And we're still waiting on those. Right. But it was a decent movie. It was just a little bit poorly executed, in my opinion.
Okay.
And then the other movie, Shazam, I love the movie. It's hilarious. I love the actors that they got involved with it. I love the use of Billy Batson. I thought, like, it's interesting how you can introduce a child as the superhero. And, like, it was always going to be a good idea to have, like, I've always thought the idea of Shazam was an interesting idea for a superhero. So seeing it executed in a movie was nice. But the biggest problem with it was just the actors that they got, the rest of the actors that they had for the cast. Because poorly executed villain, poorly executed mentor, and then poorly executed other Shazams that nobody even know about.
Well, I think the one that resonates with me is, of course, you have, what was it? I think her name is Mary Batson. I haven't read a lot of Shazam comics lately. And Captain Marvel Jr. are the only 2 that really, like, resonated with me, because I was just like, yeah, I know them from the comics. And they both were in the movie.
Yeah.
Captain Marvel Jr. being Freddie Freeman. That's him. But everybody else was just like, yeah, I agree. And again, it's like I said already, when we were talking about Green Lantern with Mark Strong, you have a great actor who can play a perfect villain. To me, Shazam just didn't capitalize on it. It just was a terrible villain. I didn't care for him. Like, give me a reason to, I understand he's envious. Like, he wants what Shazam has. And because he was turned down because he was tempted. But my whole thing is that I just feel like it didn't still give me a sense to care. Like, yeah. I like a villain who I can care about, like, too. Like, it's just really hard. I know it's sometimes hard to do it with certain villains, but to me, it's like you could try a little harder to make him. Why should I like him, or why should he be a villain that I, want to see? It seemed like the 7 Deadly Sins did more than he did. That's how I look at it.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much was my biggest problem with the movie, was that. So I actually got 2 honorable mentions as well. Before I continue, Willie, did you have any more honorable mentions?
No.
Okay. I have 2 honorable mentions as well. First one being Dark Knight Rises. Now, I know a lot of people say, why do you like it? Because it has, it's got the most annoying Bane voice ever. Let me explain. I still like the movie. I still think there was something in there that was for me. I don't know exactly how to explain it, but it still did. Like, to me, it brought in a Dick Grayson without even showing him as a Nightwing or, being a Batman psychic. it just showed him as Dick Grayson. This is a Batman who's pretty much been retired for 8 years now, and seeing that he's viewed as the villain who killed Harvey Dent. That was one of the things that I feel, and two, I think it was like, the main message is what happened when you fall, you rise up, and I think that whole storyline where Bane breaks his back, one of the most iconic scenes in comics, and he gets back up and goes back to Gotham to save it before it's too late, I think is one of the most powerful scenes in that movie. And, again, star-studded cast, it just really hit for me. And, Tom Hardy, I know a lot of people are not going to like me saying this. Tom Hardy actually did play not that bad of a Bane. I didn't mind him. And I agree the voice gets annoying. It's pretty laughable now. But I still like him. I think the only turnoff for me in this movie, I didn't always like the twist with Talia. I didn't like that twist at the end with Talia al Ghul. And I didn't like Anne Hathaway. I thought they could have found somebody better to play Catwoman. I just didn't care for it as much. My other honorable mention I also know is going to be controversial. And I knew this was a DC movie, but it's Watchmen. And now I know people are going to be like, why choose Watchmen? That was, hear me out. I think it tried to do something that nobody else was willing to try to do. I think it's a very hard story to adapt. I'll say it that way. And Zack Snyder brought it to the screen. Do I think there's problems with it? Absolutely. I do think there's a lot of problems, but it shows a different side of superheroes. And I think it's not just your sugarcoating, like all the old the cartoons and stuff that we watch. This is not just your typical superhero team. This is a whole bunch of people that look at the world all in a different way. And being the main hero, one of the main heroes on the team, turns out to be the villain later on in the movie, really resonates with me because it's just one of those things like he wants still to have world peace, but yet he can only find that by doing something villainous and something destructive. And it's interesting. It puts that dynamic there, that moral dynamic there. Like, how do we do this? One of my favorite characters in the movie is Rorschach. I enjoyed it. I thought it was one of the best things that I enjoyed about that movie was Rorschach. It just, him being like the Batman in this case, like he's the one that views this team like, what's really happening. He's the true detective of the group. And I enjoyed this. I thought it was really good. Well done. It didn't make my top 5 because there is still problems with the movie. I still do think there's issues that I just didn't care about. Mainly, it's not the CGI. I didn't like, what's her name? Can't remember her name. Silver Spectre, if I'm not mistaken. I didn't care for her. I just felt like they could have found somebody better. Patrick Wilson is Night or Owlman, or Night Owl. Sorry, I just didn't care for him. Those two characters alone just made me not like the movie. The first opening credit, when you see all the old team and, their demise and everything, I thought that was perfect. I thought that set up the story really well. Having the scene with the comedian and you come to find out Ozymandias sitting there fighting him, I thought was a very well done, beautiful scene. I think that was just a good fight scene and it led to something more beautiful. I just really enjoyed that. But there's still problems with it. And I think that's why I just couldn't notch it into my top 5. So, all right. So let's get to our number 1. Ciara, what's your number 1?
My number 1 is a movie that was released in 92. It has Michael Keaton, Danny DeVito, Michelle Pfeiffer, and Christopher Walken. And that movie is Batman Returns.
I want to know why you chose Batman Returns. Was it me? Or, was it Christopher Walken? Max Strike?
I do have to say, I did like his part. It was creepy, but I did like it.
Well, thank you very much. That's the last time you'll ever hear me do Christopher Walken on our podcast.
Good.
Leave the voices to me, my good sir.
Now this has become a contest of who can do the better Christopher Walken.
Oh no.
Hey, coming at me all wrong. It's the wrong time. Do it again. I'll stab you in the face with a soldering iron.
You know, I'm not going to fight you on that. We understand. You know. So
you're trying to fight me. You got to come at me like a man. You got to bring more cowbell.
Got a fever.
Anyway,
so why Batman Returns? What made you like this movie, or why would you put it at number one?
Okay, this was my second Batman movie that I saw, and it was creepy. It wasn't what I was used to. Well, I mean, again, Tim Burton, but the Penguin, when I think of this movie, I don't think of Catwoman. I do, but the one character that really stuck out in my head was Danny DeVito as Penguin. That was the most terrifying scene ever. His character just, nope.
Right.
And I think that's what made the movie, in my opinion, was Danny DeVito.
So I actually kind of got a question. So what made you, so mind you, the only other Batman movie that was, you know, had Michael Keaton in it or was directed by Tim Burton was Batman in 1989. Mm-hmm. So why choose Batman Returns? Why would you recommend Batman Returns more than Batman?
I think Batman Returns because it's different. It's a different Batman. The only other ones, they're more have a serious tone to it. This one is more, I don't want to say comical because it's not really comical, but it's more of a dark look on a Batman movie, in my opinion. And I do like dark, creepy things. So this movie, if you're into dark, weird movies, this is it. Okay. If you're a Batman fan that likes dark, creepy things, yes.
Actually, like on that, if you're a person who likes Batman, like the old comic books or the old like animated cartoon, then this is the one. If you want to see a good live action adaptation, this is the one to go to because like you said, it is dark and it really is reminiscent of how dark the comic book can be or how dark the animated series could be. Like this, like aside from this movie, like before this movie, all you had was Adam West Batman and just kind of comedic versions of Batman. You never really had a good dark Batman that really showed you what Batman was like back in the old school days.
Yeah,
I agree with you there. I do think this was a different take on the Penguin because, you know, from, you know, it's like you said, like we had the comics and stuff, but they were all the same, even with the show, with the 1966, you know, the Adam West show. They were pretty much, it was just a rich guy that was short and stocky. This was a different take on it. He literally looked like a penguin. And it actually was interesting to kind of, you know, watch it. Fun fact, if you guys don't pay attention, look at the parents of the Penguin. You guys know who that is? I can't remember the woman, but I know the man. Same guy who played Pee Wee Herman. I am not kidding. You really look at him in the face, and you will see, because he was always in Tim Burton movies. So that was one of the things he was in. He appeared in that. And the woman was from I believe she was part of the Pee Wee Herman movies, if I'm not mistaken. I can't remember if that was his real life wife or not. But it really, like, you really pay attention. It's just like, that's Pee Wee Herman. It really is. But I think it, again, going back to the whole Catwoman discussion, I do think this gave off the best Catwoman. Now, I think the character, I hate to say it, I wasn't the best actor in the movie. I didn't care for Christopher Walken. I think that was a character they could have got rid of and it would have made 10 times better. He was just one of those unneeded characters. I understand his purpose in the story and trying to use the penguin, and stuff. But again, it wasn't needed. I think that was just the one thing that was just like, you could have did without and it would probably made the movie better. Make him rise up to his own fame. We don't need somebody to help you rise up to that fame. So, I should have never been hired, but it's whatever. It happened. It's still a good movie. I like both the movies with Batman with Michael Keaton. This one just couldn't make that range. If we did a top 10 list, it probably would rank in my top 10. It's just not at that range where I could put it up higher. Okay. All right, well, what's your number one?
All right, my number one for DC movies. It's almost hard to talk about it at this point because you both have already talked about it. Wonder Woman. I mean, you guys have both already said so much about it. The only addition I can say to why it made my my number one of all the other movies was just because this movie was kind of at I can't say the first one, but definitely the second turning point for DC movies. First was Batman Begins, and you see the development of DC right after that movie, how it got a huge rise. But then with every DC movie that started coming out after that, it kind of was sinking again with all the other, with the way that they were trying to progress. And you can see the fan base, there's a big flux right after they did Batman versus Superman to when they did Wonder Woman. And it just started bringing back all the fans to DC again, because they were, after seeing that movie, how well it was made, how well it was acted, how well it was directed, written, all of that. And it started getting people to think, okay, maybe we're going to have some good stuff coming from DC again. They didn't, but but it was still probably the best attempt to try to get people back into watching DC again. And Wonder Woman definitely took the cake.
Okay. All right. Yeah, like, was there like a certain scene, kind of like how I said it, like with the No Man's Land scene? Like that to me is what captivated me.
Well, that's one of them. I mean, any fight scene, every fight scene that happened in that movie was really well choreographed. It was well edited. I'm not always the biggest fan of slow-mo scenes, but the way they showed it in that movie, like every time there was a slow-mo scene that happened, it was always followed by something dynamic happened, like Wonder Woman dodging people attacking and then immediately firing with a bow and arrow at people in front and behind her. The scene in No Man's Land when she's knocking the bullets away with her bracers. Right. Scenes where she bangs the bracers together and it tips over a tank. And then the giant fight scene at the end where they're all having their dynamic superhuman battle. All the meanwhile, you have who was the other guy?
Steve Trevor.
Yeah.
The pilot.
Yeah. You had him doing his thing, trying to get the plane like under control and like manage everything on his end. You got like at that battle scene, you had two wars going on at once.
Right.
And it was just really well executed.
That's actually a good way to put it. Like you had the war between, you had what's going on between her and Ares, but then it's her, not trying to, she could have tried to save Steve Trevor before that went off. Yeah. I think it's an awesome dynamic where it was like, you choose this or you choose this. You choose for the better good or you choose for, and I think that was actually a really good thing. And what she sacrificed for that too, I think was perfect. Okay. So my number one is, to me, period, probably one of the best superhero movies, probably the best superhero movie ever made. And it came out in the magical year 2008. I chose The Dark Knight. Dark Knight was my number one movie. Again, this is Christian Bale as Batman, and you have Heath Ledger as the Joker. You have Aaron Eckhart as Two-Face. There's so much going on in this movie. This is one of the only superhero movies I literally sat on the edge of my seat from beginning to end. This is a non-stop movie. It keeps you on your toes. It is just one of my favorite scenes. It's just the start of the movie with the whole bank heist. I think this is probably one of the best scenes of the whole movie. It just worked well. And I love the whole scene that you don't know who all these people are, and then Joker reveals himself as he's one of the clowns in the bank robbery. I really enjoy this story. It really, to me, again, it's like Ciara says, Heath Ledger, in my eyes, is the best Joker. To be totally honest, he died for this role. This was his role. To me, he won a Best Supporting Actor for this role. Like, it really shows. And to me, this is just a character, like, you have to really work hard to get to this point in movie-wise for the Joker. And I think there's only been one person since that's been able to even get close to him, and that is Joaquin Phoenix. Now, a lot of people don't have their views about that movie too, but he has become close to Heath Ledger in that range. One of my favorite characters is Harvey Dent and Two-Face in this movie. I think he gives off a good dynamic and how, what was it? You can, I can't remember the exact quote, but pretty much it's like he says, either you can be the hero, you can die long, or you can live long enough to see yourself turn into a villain. This is, to me, one of the most important roles, or one of the most important comments in the movie, because it's what he becomes.
Hero, or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain.
Thank you, Willie. Yeah. I can't remember the exact line, but that scene to me alone set the tone for the movie. And you saw how Harvey Dent became that, and how he was such an iconic, district attorney. He was out for justice, and then something bad happens to him, and now he's becoming a villain. Mm-hmm. It really can show that this is, and I think Christopher Nolan, for me, is probably one of the best directors for the Batman trilogies. I think he made it humanized. He made it relatable to all of us. It wasn't nobody with superpowers. It wasn't anybody like that. And I think that's why we had Scarecrow, and we had Ra's al Ghul, and then we had Joker and Two-Face, and we had Bane and Talia. None of them had superpowers. Even Bane didn't have superpowers. He made it relatable. And I think that's what made it strong with me. To me, even Gary Oldman, I love him as Commissioner Gordon. It's the same way I look at Spider-Man movies and say, you can't have anybody else do the role except J.K. Simmons as J. Jonah Jameson. To me, Gary Oldman was the perfect Commissioner Gordon. You couldn't have asked anybody better to come in and play that role. And such an iconic actor, and you get him to play a small role, not a small role, but not as a big of a role like Batman. And he did phenomenal. I loved him in that movie. And I think everybody played their role in this movie really well, straight up from the tee. It wasn't, and again, it's like I said, I was literally sitting at the edge of my seat for the whole movie. It's one of my first midnight movies I ever went and watched, and I loved it. It was such a very iconic movie. And just the memories I have from it, watching it there and then wanting to go back and watch it again. It was just one of those movies I just could not stop watching. it was so beautiful done, or so well done in the movie, so beautiful. To me, I think where you said Batman Begins was a turning point for superhero movies, I actually think this was. And the reason is because it set the tone for all now superhero movies. You know, same year you had Iron Man come out. And, you know, both of them are iconic movies in the superhero world. To me, this was the one that, to me, set the tone. And then now, it's like now you look at the new ones and you look at Joker as the one that set the tone. Now it's got to be a little darker. Now it's got to get a little bit more relatable. And I think it, to me, I can't really think of another good superhero movie other than The Dark Knight. I think this is, to me, one of my favorites. Probably would rank as my number one in my all-time favorite list. It just really is. It's a really good movie. So yeah, my number one is The Dark Knight. So there's our list, you guys. You guys can comment down below if you're watching it on our YouTube channel. Give us your top 5 movies. Give your opinions on our picks too. We would love to hear them. It's kind of so we can collaborate too. Other than that, you know, thank you for listening to the podcast. We look forward to doing more and having you guys continue watching us. So again, my name is Brandon.
I'm Will.
I'm Ciara.
And this has been Comic Talkers. Thank you. Have a nice night.
Bye.